All right. For those of you at home, you're watching this because you decided you needed to miss school for whatever reason. You're still expected to learn the same things, so I'm going to try recording today. So, all right. I'm still teaching to you guys, so I won't look at them too much, but
Is it in selfie mode right now?
yeah, it's in selfie mode because I'm not allowed to record you guys. All right. Oh, I need to take it back to the slideshow really quick. So I'm going to first, as you saw from the video, there are no true communist countries. They're all technically socialist. And the problem with communism and socialism has always been lack of incentive, and I'll talk about more on the problems with communism, why we hated communist countries so much during the Cold War in just a minute. But first, if you look at this slide, it shows what the Soviet Union looked like. Soviet Union was not just Russia. It was kind of like the United States, with Russia being the largest state, but these were its other country states that were part of it. And then these weren't the only communist areas though. Also, aside from the Soviet Union, you also had these countries in Eastern Europe, which were communist or technically socialist, and they were kind of controlled by the Soviet Union.
It's the Iron Curtain.
Yep, this line here is what Winston Churchill called the Iron Curtain that was descending across Europe. And with that, the problems that we had with communism, aside from their different economic system from ours that we didn't like, was that their leaders were corrupt. Stalin, Mao, all of them, they helped their friends. They didn't really spread the wealth evenly. And in addition to that, they weren't democratic at all. They didn't allow democracy. They didn't allow freedom of speech or religion. So the fact that they weren't democratic and were officially atheist was another reason why the US and other Western capitalist countries really didn't like them during the Cold War, and why we have this big conflict. It wasn't just the fact that they were communist, or technically socialist. So with that, another thing I need to explain that you guys read about were proxy wars. When we had our conflict with the Soviet Union, we never fought with them directly. That's why it's called a Cold War, because it didn't turn hot. There wasn't actual fighting directly between our two countries. But there were proxy wars, which means that we would use other places as like if a place was having a civil war between people who wanted to be communist and people who wanted to be capitalist, we would go in, and so would the Soviet Union, and support the different sides. So we're using them like proxies for ourselves. In cases like Korea and Vietnam, the US went in and sent soldiers while the Soviet Union sent supplies to the other side. In Afghanistan, it was the Soviet Union who sent soldiers while we sent supplies to the other side. And so we never really fought directly. All right. And let's see.
Wait, are we going to learn about Vietnam in this unit?
Yep. Yep, we will. Let's see. I think there was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. So one other thing I wanted to say is that the start of the Cold War, we really don't have a solid way to say who started the Cold War. Because some people say the Soviet Union started it because they, as being communist, they didn't allow free elections in Eastern Europe like they said they would. And communism, its ideal is it needs to spread across the world. But we don't really know if that would have happened and if Stalin wanted to spread across the world. But when Truman came up with the Truman Doctrine and said we need to contain communism where it is and not let it spread any further, and we need to send help to Turkey and Greece so that their capitalist side can beat their communist side, well, maybe that was what triggered the Soviet Union to be like, why does America think it could get involved in other countries' business? If they can get involved, so can we. If they're going to try to spread their ideals and contain us, well, we're going to try to spread our ideals and contain them. And so maybe us trying to tell them what they couldn't do was what got them to say, well, we're going to do it. You know? All right. I think that's all for today.